All right. Thanks, Allison. So, about my beard, and I will let the cat out of the bag that I did dye my beard. And it's the first time I've ever done it. So,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, whatever, I'll see how this goes. I asked mom what she thought of it, and she goes, I'm not really a fan of beards. I'm like, did you not notice that the gray hair is gone?
Right. Yeah. Thanks,
No,
Mom.
my mother didn't notice.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think it looks
I was
great.
like, I kind of like it. We'll see. As this grows in, definitely
Mm-hmm.
silvery.
Right.
I look a little bit like a black and white cookie.
Who doesn't
And
love a cookie?
I mean, cookies. Yeah, I mean, cookies are delicious and all, but I don't need to be walking around with a mismatched head.
It's true. I mean, I will say hair is a lot of work to keep up with. So if you're
Oh,
trying to do it, you know,
so
like again, then yeah, I can see how it would be much easier to not have any or just let it go on its own.
yeah, totally. And I have a pair of clippers. So every week or two, you will see me standing outside the RV
Mm-hmm.
with my clippers plugged into the outlet that's back there. And I'm just cutting my hair outside, wherever I
Mm-hmm.
happen to be. I
Right.
don't give a damn.
Yeah. Get her done. You got to do it.
Exactly, exactly. Now I am waiting to see. We should have some folks who are listening or joining in. They can send comments and questions. I saw that you posted something asking people for their questions.
Mm-hmm.
So I am curious to hear what questions people sent to you. This is
So
going down there.
I've got one question, and then I am somebody who usually does their homework, so I have a few questions that I jotted down as well. So I figured,
Okay.
that's and it's about all sorts of things. So do you want to start with the question that was submitted by a commenter on LinkedIn?
Sure, send it over.
Well, let's see. So the question was, since you're traveling with a dog, what are the best ways that you have discovered to be able to know what places are pet friendly for you as you're going to different destinations?
That's a good question. So in the States, every hotel or campground lists somewhere on their website whether or not they're pet friendly.
Mhm.
So that right there makes it really easy. Um, in Mexico, I found an app called iOverlander, which it's kind of like a map app, but it lists campgrounds, hotels, some restaurants, and things like that. And you can actually
Mhm.
filter and sort based on what is going to be pet friendly and what isn't.
Okay.
Um, when in doubt, ask the person who checked you in.
Mhm.
Like, oh, can I bring my dog to the beach?
Yeah.
Sure, or no. And
Right.
I've had both answers, so that is the nuts and bolts of it. I will tell
Mhm.
you though, since we're talking about Rudy, he has been going morning. The place where I'm staying currently, they're doing a little bit of construction down the way, and one of the construction workers brought his two dogs,
Mhm.
and it is Mexico, and there are dogs in the street and feral dogs and dogs running around all over the place. So Rudy has been sitting here staring out the window, and Rudy's been staring out the window, and yes, Jennifer, you're right. Some places do charge extra, and some places restrictions on the size of the dogs, but I haven't really run into that yet. But Rudy's been staring out the window, wanting to play with the 2 dogs that are out there, and he is easily twice their size.
Are you going to take him out for a lunch break and see if they're friends or foes?
I will take him out for a lunch break, and chances are they'll want to tease him and run around and play. But he's built like that stocky football player. So what he has in mass and strength, he lacks in speed and agility. So we have that in common.
Well, I hope that they all have fun at lunch. So that was my question from the LinkedIn crew. So one of the questions I thought about that would be really interesting to hear from you is, I know that you love to cook. So how have your cooking habits had to change since you have gone into on the road?
Oh, that's a good one. So I love to cook, especially when I'm cooking for people. And this has been a long time in the making, but cooking for one is more of a pain in the ass than it is a joy or a treat. So I cook I what I'm don't have the space in my refrigerator for is to make that big dish on the weekend and just dig into it throughout the week. Um, but I make up for that because every destination that I go to, there are restaurants that I want to try. I do every week make a big serving of dog food, and I try to cook myself dinner at least once or twice. I have, and I'll actually scroll over. Not going to show too much over there, but I have a 2-burner propane stove. I've got a convection microwave oven, so
You could
I
call
can
that a
roast the
kitchenette.
chicken. Yeah, it's a kitchenette. It's actually it's about the same size as the kitchen in my first apartment in New York City.
Yep, that seems about right.
You know, when you get that like 5 or 6 foot wall of kitchen,
Yeah.
and it has the little mini stove, it's about the same size.
Yep. That's great. Yeah, that would be something
So,
I
but
think
what
that
I
would be a
don't
hard
have space
adjustment.
for,
Yeah.
what I don't really have space for is a lot of pots and pans. So again, back to like living in New York City, you have the one pot that you use for pasta or soups or whatever, that one. And then you have one pan that is the saute pan, but you can also, you know, cook something bigger in it if you need to. And it's got a lid. So I have 2 pans.
Yeah.
That's it. And then I also have for the oven. Oh, shoot. I'm going to drop things. There we go. I have these little, takeaway type tin pans. So I don't have to keep baking sheets and stuff around. I can just use those.
So you got to get creative, basically.
Yeah. I mean, my oven isn't big enough to store shoes in. So I've got that going for me.
That's good. Yeah. Got to use every inch of space you can.
Yeah. And I have, 2 big cabinets above that work as a pantry. I've got several, like cabinet spaces down below. So there's space for stuff.
Yeah. So while, like, I know you, like you said, you've been able to eat at these like awesome restaurants and things as you've been on the road. There's another question I came up with. What is one of the places so far that you visited that you just felt so welcomed by the people that were there that like you can't wait to go back?
Oh gosh. Well, I think we have in common the fact that we've worked in travel and tourism so long that we know people in almost every destination.
Mm-hmm.
So my very, very first stop was St. Augustine, Florida. And I posted on Facebook, I'm in St. Augustine. And within 20 minutes, I had an invitation over to somebody's house to help them make Christmas cookies and have tacos.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really beat that sort of experience. I was in Savannah, Georgia, and even the people, the homeless people in the park were incredibly friendly, and not because they wanted your spare change or a meal or something. They were just genuinely nice.
Yeah.
Um, so that was pretty cool. In Beaufort, I got to stay at the home of Linda Jeffries, who we've both known for a long time.
Uh-huh.
Um, so, being welcomed into her home, and she did a low country boil. Um,
Mm-hmm. Yum.
the one There was an attraction that I will say in just outside of Lafayette, Louisiana, and it's a crawfish farm. And I'll be posting a blog post about this, or not a blog post. I'll be
I feel
posting a
like you were
podcast
posting
episode about
pictures,
this.
right? Or maybe it was the shrimp that I'm thinking of.
I did post a couple pictures because I
Uh-huh.
legitimately went out on the bog buggy and
That's
harvested
awesome.
crawfish to make for dinner.
Uh-huh.
But what made it really cool is that, yes, it's a tourist attraction and he can accept a bus full of people or two buses full of people, but he's legitimately inviting you into his home
Mm-hmm.
to experience and learn about Cajun culture and what it's like to be a crawfish farmer. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the sort of welcoming experience you don't find at a lot of public attractions, but that anybody
Yeah.
could participate in.
Yeah.
Um, so I'll throw that out there. And the people here in Mexico have been great. I'm clearly El Gringo, and everybody knows me.
There was never any question.
Never any question. There was never a doubt in my mind. But the guy yesterday at lunch, so I went to this little restaurant and they made me a seafood soup. And it was this
Mm-hmm.
big bowl and it was loaded with seafood, fish, shrimp, clams, mussels, uh, calamari, I mean, just
Mm-hmm.
everything.
Yeah.
And they cleared the plate, and I looked at the guy as he's clearing the plate. I look at him and say, "How much do I owe you?" Probably should have asked that in the beginning. And he looks at me. He goes, "Tranquilo, gringo. Just settle down. Take your time." And then eventually, his mother comes out and tells me how much I owe.
I love it's like a good cop, bad cop situation.
Yeah, but I mean, you're welcome here. We're not rushing you out. And that
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was sort of
Uh-huh.
the impression that I got from that. So
Yeah.
I've been very lucky in that regard, and that's a very long-winded answer.
No, that's great. I love it. That's wonderful. I mean, it's so good to just like hear those stories about like all these different places and people that are, just like even if they know you from tourism, just the people you don't know who are bringing you into their homes and into their places, and teaching you and having conversations with you and just spending time with you. So it's
Yeah.
definitely some very cool experiences that you wouldn't have had otherwise.
Well, when I was plotting out the trip, um, about a third of the dots on the map were places that I wanted to see but haven't seen yet.
Hmm.
The rest of the map was places where I knew I had friends that I've always wanted to visit or that have
Hmm.
always asked me to come and visit, but I
Yeah.
never have.
Right.
Um, so, there's a blend of that. And if you are a friendly person, it is easy to be a friend and make a friend
Right. Right.
when you're someplace new. So
I was
there you go.
recently, thank you. I was recently listening to Dave Sedaris's new book, and
Oh,
he talks a lot in his book about how he like misses meeting people at book signings because of the pandemic. He wasn't able to do them and
Yeah.
everything. And he was just, I loved his approach of just like he was saying that he like picks a question to ask people like at a book signing, which aren't necessarily appropriate all the time for like a live stream, but I thought it was like such a great thing. He'll just like kind of pick a thing he wants to ask people, he wants to find out from people. And a lot of times it's like about their community, you know, like, what do you think about this restaurant that I had dinner from, you know? And he just sort of like gets to know people that way. And I just thought that was such a fun like thing to do and a great way to sort of like, you know, keep it interesting and entertaining, because he's like going to all these cities and doing like a book tour. So, you know, meeting the communities and learning about them. So, yeah.
So two of the things that I do when I go out to eat that people might think are strange, but seem to work for me. Number one, I don't bother to look at the menu anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when we look at the menu, we're going to choose something that's familiar and safe to us.
Right.
Instead, I ask the server, or in many cases, the person that's working in the kitchen, because these are small restaurants, you know,
Mm-hmm.
bring me your favorite item,
Yeah.
or whatever you think is best today, or whatever you're in the mood for lunch. Just bring me that. And it has been a really cool experience. I've had some fantastic food that I never would have ordered,
Mm-hmm.
simply because I asked them, "What's your favorite?" You know, or
Yeah.
"What are you in the mood for?"
Yeah.
The other question that I ask at a restaurant is, if I have to eat if I get to eat at one other place while I'm in town, where would you recommend I go?
Mm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then I'm getting the recommendation from somebody who is working in the business.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
So,
great.
and you
Yeah.
mentioned Dave Sedaris's questions. So I actually have a deck, and I'll send you one, a deck of question cards.
Oh, there you go.
And I
So
have
pick one
used
out of
these
the
to help me
deck.
prep. Yeah, exactly. I've used these to help me prep for the podcast. So here's a random question: are all emotions beautiful?
Hmm. It's a good question. I don't know if I
Probably
would say
some.
beautiful. I would say emotions are valid.
Yeah, yeah. And
Me
then
personally.
the other question on that same card.
Yeah.
There's glare.
I can't see it.
What makes you weird?
Oh. Hmm. What makes me weird?
So when you're meeting somebody new and you can ask a question like that,
Yeah.
you know, you
Right.
definitely break down certain barriers.
Mm-hmm. Right. So Brittany just joined and has a question in the chat here, which is she is wondering if you can share some of the biggest surprises you've experienced while being a tourist and in working with visitors in your own area.
Biggest surprises. Um, hmm. Unexpected gems. So I went to a kazoo factory.
I guess they got to make them somewhere.
Right. But who thinks of going to a freaking kazoo factory when they're traveling?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of fun to bring back to my niece and nephew.
Where was the kazoo
So,
factory?
Beaufort, South Carolina.
Okay.
And it's owned by the mayor of Beaufort, who greeted me at the door.
Good. That's great.
So,
I love it.
you know, you can't beat that kind of thing. Um, so that was one of the biggest surprises. Another one was, frankly, the beach here. You know, I'm
Mm-hmm.
in Playa La Pesca in Mexico, and I knew there was a beach. I mean, obviously it's called La Playa, but I didn't expect there to be 2 or 3 miles of completely unbothered beach with no
Mm-hmm.
construction, no houses or hotels, and I was the only person there. You know, when was the last time any of us got to go to a beach and have that sort of,
Yeah.
experience? So,
Yep.
yeah.
As I crunched through the ice this morning, I will tell you that sounds pretty heavenly right now.
Well, I was going to bring the RV over to the beach and actually camp there with the doors and windows open for a night, but
Mhm.
it got down into the 40s.
Brr. So, okay, I have another question for you. This is sort of like a business question, not just a what's it like to be on the road question, which is you've had many different careers in your life which has taken you on all these different journeys. But being an entrepreneur at this point in your life, what do you think is a skill that you have learned by being an entrepreneur that you wouldn't have learned otherwise? We might be frozen. Yep, I'm the only one left. All right, well, maybe Steve Ekstrom will come back in a minute and we can answer that question. In the meantime, I don't even know who's on here. So, we can chat a little bit. I also was going to ask him if there are any books he has read recently that we would want to check out, since all of us used to be in a book club together. Um, so we were going to talk about that a little bit. Yep, I'm the only one here. All right, I'm going to go ahead and log off and see if we can get back on with Steve in a minute here. And yeah, thanks everybody for watching.